What's up, you mad dogs? This is my full card prediction video for this week's UFC fight night. Moreno versus Kavanagh. We're coming off the back of that fantastic prediction in last week's main event. I'm still stoked about that one. Hopefully we can keep the momentum rolling into this week. Hopefully we can get a bit of a better undercard on this week's fight night. Last week's undercard was a bit of a letdown, to be honest. But as far as the way these fights here are matched up, no shade UFC. A lot of Mexicans on here. I feel like they're going to be bringing that Mexican fighting spirit. And I feel like these matchups are just set up to be pretty exciting fights, you know. Not a whole lot of name value on this card. But even with that being said, there is a lot of fights here that I'm looking forward to see. A lot of debutants from last year's Dana White's Contender Series. Imanol Rodriguez, I'm looking forward to see his fight. And there's a lot more on here as well. Obviously, we got the main event. Kavanagh coming off that knockout loss to Charles Johnson. David Martinez, he's always fun to watch. And I mean, yeah, look, the matchups here, no real big name value, but I think we're going to get some exciting fights either way. And I feel like we're going to get quite a few finishes on this card. Without further ado, we'll jump right into it. It's hot as fuck in this room right now, so I'm going to try and smash through these early ones as quick as I can, so I'm not sitting here sweating up a fucking storm. First fight of the night, we have Damian Pinas versus Shultz. I'm going to go with the side of Damian Pinas here. He's going to be more physical, more athletic. Standard striker versus grappler matchup here. Now, both of these guys are coming off of their Contender Series wins. It was Schultz's second crack at the Contender Series after losing to Mansour Abdul-Malik. I think the year before it was. But man, I just feel like the physicality and the athleticism of Damian Pinas, it's going to be too much. Now, it's not a crazy confident pick because it needs to be said, there is question marks. We don't know the grappling ability of Damian Pinas, and sometimes these African guys, they come in and they just lose straight away, you know. So you never know with these guys. I feel like this one could go either way, but I will lean the side of Damian Pinas just for his raw physicality, athleticism, strength. I feel like he's going to be stronger. He's going to be way better on the feet. Where Schultz has a bit of an awkward striking style. It makes it work for him. But I feel like against someone like this, he's going to want to get it to the ground. Now, he's coming off a Suloev stretch submission in that Contender Series win last year. Kind of a one-of-a-kind submission sort of thing. You don't see it very often. And yeah, look, he is a dangerous threat when it comes to getting the fight to the ground. But I just feel like Damian Pinas is going to be able to keep this fight on the feet for the most part. Maybe I could see some early success from Schultz. And then as the fight goes on, later in the first round, maybe going into the second round, we can see Schultz start to slow down, probably fail a couple of takedowns, and then Pinas really starts to land those shots. I should really emphasize the I and the A in that name, but yeah, Damian Pinas by knockout in round 1 or 2. That's going to be my pick for this fight. Like I said, not a really high confidence pick because there is that question mark there on the grappling. But that's going to be my pick for the fight. Next fight of the night, we have Erik Silva versus Francis Marshall. Now, I'm going to go with Francis Marshall here. I'm going to say he gets it done by submission. I'll say he gets it done in round number 2. I could see it happening in the first, but I'm going to say submission round 2. Now, Erik Silva is coming off a TKO loss to Muhammad Naimov, and that was about, I think it was in February of 2024. So that's a good 2-year layoff. It was like a supposed ankle injury. I couldn't find any details on the injury itself to follow. So I don't know the extent of the injury or what. But this guy's like 36 or 38. So he's getting up there, coming off a long layoff with injury concerns. Coming up against a decent fighter, man. Like, Francis Marshall is pretty decent. He's coming off that split decision loss to Mayron Santos. A lot of people thought that he won that fight. Watching that one live, I thought he won that fight. I had picked Marion Santos in that fight, and I thought, oh shit, that pick's gone, and then it went the other way. So it was a very, very close fight. I feel like he's going to be more physical here. He's going to be more strong. And he's going to be able to get takedowns and control Erik Silva on the ground, I feel like. Now, his striking's good too. He's well-rounded. He can do it all. And he's got good power in the hands. He was able to drop Marion Santos in that last fight. But I just feel like he's going to be able to mix in the wrestling here, find advantageous position, and probably take the back and secure a rear naked choke. That's how I see this fight going. I just can't trust the long layoff here and the age and the injury concerns of Erik Silva against someone who's had, I can't remember the other guy he fought. I'm trying to remember now. But someone who's had, he's 3-4. Francis Marshall, I'm talking about. He's 1-3 in his last 4. That's the right words I'm trying to use. 1-3 in his last 4, but against decent opponents. And the win was like a 1 week short notice against Dennis Bazooka. Now, I'm not saying that Francis Marshall is the next big thing or anything, but I'm saying he's technically sound, That's probably the best way to put it. And I'm going to say that he wins this fight by submission in round number 2. That brings us to the next fight. Sofia Montenegro versus Ernesta Carrascate. I think it's Carrascate. Something like that. Sofia Montenegro is coming off her split decision loss on the Dana White's Contender Series last year in what was a really fucking good women's MMA fight. Trying to remember the name of the girl that she fought. I think it was a Charez or something. But it was a really good fight. If you get the chance to go and watch that fight back, look, it's worth it. If you want a good women's MMA fight to watch, go watch that one. Just a fucking war for 3 rounds. Both women bloodied up. And this chick put on a good performance, in your face, throwing bombs, throwing with intent. That's what I like here. Because a lot of the time in women's MMA, you'll just get your standard pitter-patter, spar-like striking. And then if someone knows how to grapple, they're usually possibly going to win, especially against someone who doesn't. Now, she's coming up against a very tall, very rangy Ernesta Carrascate, Lithuanian. These Lithuanians are fucking tall people, Now, she's a striker in herself. Like I said, very rangy. So I feel like we could maybe see some troubles here with that range early on. But Carrascate, whatever you call her, she had a loss to Diana Barbosa in her debut, and then she's also coming off a split decision win over the girl that Carly Judice knocked out. And Ernesta actually has a split decision win over Carly Judice, and that was in the Contender Series in 2024, I believe. Now, she's a bit of a split decision merchant because she's actually got 4 of them on her record out of her 6 wins. And, I feel like the range here could give Sofia some troubles, but I'm just going to take her on the fact that she's willing to bite down on the mouthpiece, walk forward, get in your face, and throw absolute heat when it comes to the striking. Serious intent. I think that's all I need to say here about that. She just throws with some serious intent. And I feel like the pressure from her will be able to wear on Ernesta here and get to her over the rounds as they go. And I feel like she's going to pick up a 29-28, maybe a split decision win here over Ernesta Carrascate. That's the last time I'm going to say that name. Until she fights next, I guess. Next fight, Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Javier Reyes. This is another fight where we have an old fighter. This guy, Douglas Silva de Andrade, he's been in the UFC for a long time, but he's 40 now. Again, coming off of a 2-year layoff. Some potential injury concerns maybe. And he's coming up against Javier Reyes, who got a knockout win on the Contender Series last year. Now, he's not the best, though. He's not the best. He's a finisher. He is very dangerous when it comes to striking, submissions, all that. He will mix in the grappling. Coming up against Douglas Silva de Andrade, who is mostly a striker, will throw bombs, throw heat. But just watching that last fight, he's coming off a loss to Miles Johns, and he just really couldn't. He was throwing heat in moments. He had his moments, but it was just never enough, you know? And I feel like coming up against Javier Reyes here, who's going to be a lot taller than him, although they've got the same height here. I feel like he's going to be a lot rangier than him. Now, Reyes does have holes in the striking. I watched his fight back. He's got a fight against Larian Douglas, who also just got in the UFC on the Contender Series last year. And he lost that fight by knockout. He just couldn't get going. He was throwing weird, leaving his chin out. Now, when he enters the pocket and throws combinations, that chin comes right up. And that is a worry here because Douglas does have good power in the hands. And being a vet, a lot of UFC experience here, he could expose that. But again, I was actually thinking about picking him here, but I'm going to side with Javier Reyes. I just can't. It's hard for me to pick a guy who's been out for 2 years, you know. Age 40 in the featherweight division as well. It's hard for me to pick him knowing that there's possibly some injury concerns there against someone who's going to come in and try and finish him early on. Now, if this fight goes out of halfway through the second round, I'll start to get worried. Maybe Douglas can pick up the pace late and pick up a late knockout. But I'm going to side with Javier Reyes here. I'm going to say he gets it done. I want to say he gets a knockout. I'm going to say it's a knockout or a submission, but I'm going to lean the side of a knockout. I'm going to say he wants to come in here and put on a good show. Good first impression for the fans. But yeah, I'm not sure how far this guy goes because he does have a lot of holes in the striking. And when he gets backed up, he doesn't look too good. So we'll see how that one goes. Next fight of the night, Christian Quinonez versus the one and only Kris Moutinho. He's back again. Back again to get slaughtered once again. This might be one of the easier matchups that he's had handed to him. I can't remember the guy he fought after O'Malley. Can't remember who that was for some reason. But I feel like this is definitely probably one of the easier matchups that he's had. But I still think he's going to get knocked out here. I'm going to go with Christian Quinonez here to win this fight by knockout. Kris Moutinho is just... He's got 5 knockout losses on his career, man. I think it'd be insane to pick him here. And that's not to say that Christian Quinonez is the next big thing. It's not to say that he's this crazy, dangerous striker. Does have a lot of knockouts on the record, but he's coming off 2 losses of his own. A submission loss to Hayoni Barcelos, and then another loss to someone else who I can't quite remember. But Christian Quinonez losing it here right now. Fucking hell, Christian Quinonez. It's a bit of a fucking tongue twister, that name. He's gonna look to strike. He will land powerful shots. He's a little bit awkward on the feet, a little bit of a wide stance. But he will be patient. He'll wait for his shot. And I think he's going to find it. Now, I'm going to say he gets this done in the second round. I don't think this will be... maybe a first round knockout. Kris Moutinho's fucking chin's gone, man. He's got 5 knockout losses. And he got put out bad. Put out really bad here by Malcolm Wellmaker last year. I don't know. I can't pick Kris Moutinho to win a fight. I'm sorry. No matter how average the opponent is, I'm sticking with Christian Quinonez here. I say he gets it done by knockout within 2 rounds. That's going to be my pick for that fight. Next fight of the night, we have Ailin Perez versus Macy Chiasson. I'm going to go with Ailin Perez here. Now, I think Macy Chiasson can cause a bit of trouble here for Ailin. She's tricky. She's tricky, and she's really tricky for me to pick her fights correctly for some reason. I just can't seem to pick her fucking fights correctly. So maybe I just want to put it out there. Maybe if I'm picking Ailin Perez here, put your money on Macy Chiasson. Because, yeah, I've had a pretty bad run with picking her fights. I don't know what it is. But I think she can cause early troubles here. With her range, she is going to be a lot taller, a lot rangier than Ailin Perez. But I just look back on the Viera fight where she was literally held on her back for pretty much the entirety of round 2 and 3. Now, I'm not saying that Ailin Perez is Viera level, but Viera is like, she's high level. Don't get me wrong, she's high level. Man, I don't know. I really wanted to pick Macy Chiasson here. And that's that's where I fuck up on her fights. I don't know. I just see her getting held down for at least 2 of the 3 rounds here. I feel like this could be similar to that Viera fight. Ailin Perez is going to be looking to grapple. She wants to hold you down on her back. She'll chase submissions. And she's fair enough. She's decent enough on the feet with her striking. But ultimately, she wants to find those takedowns. She wants to find that top control. Once she gets into top control, she's good at holding you down on your back. And just seeing the way Chiasson wasn't able to do anything to get up for 2 whole rounds, I don't know. I can't pick her to win this fight. I'm going to say Ailin Perez gets it done by decision based off of round 2 and 3. Probably some early troubles in the fight. Maybe a bit of damage caused by some big elbows of Chiasson. She has good elbows in the clinch. Good knees with that frame. But I'm going to say that Ailin Perez finds the takedowns from the second round and starts to have her way with Macy Chiasson. And she pulls off the decision win. On to the next fight. But how is this guy still in the fucking UFC? How is Jose Medina still in the UFC, bro? Okay, so we've got Ryan Gandra coming off of his round 1 knockout win on the Contender Series last week, coming up against Jose the Human Punching Bag Medina. He's good at getting punched. He's got a decent chin. It got cracked by Atiba Gautier. When I break down these fights, I look for who I'm going to pick, why, and what's the risk against my pick. What does the other fighter have to offer to go against my pick? I couldn't find a risk in this fight. Same with the Moutinho fight. I couldn't find a risk in this fight. Now, Medina has a fair few knockouts on his record, but since he's been in the UFC, I've only watched him in the UFC. I haven't gone back and watched any of his earlier fights. Since he's been in the UFC, to summarize his performance, literally a human punching bag, takes damage well, has holes in the grappling, knocked out by Atiba Gautier, sacrificial Lord of Slam. I'm dyslexic. I'm really dyslexic today. Wow. Sacrificial lamb for slaughter is what I was meant to say there. Yeah, I'm picking Ryan Gandra to win this fight by knockout in the first round. I'll say he gets it done in the first round. Now, he came out throwing absolute heat in his fight in the Contender Series. It looked like every shot he threw, he was trying to absolutely take the dude's head off. And everything that landed was like, oh, fuck, this dude's cooked. So, Ryan Gandra, I feel like he's going to get a knockout here. within 2 rounds, but I'm going to say he gets it done in the first. That's going to be my pick for that fight. And that is the feature prelim, Jose Medina. Anyways, on to the main card. Santiago Luna versus Angel Pacheco. Now, Santiago Luna, he's coming off his debut win, which was a round 1 knockout over Quang Le. Now, in that fight, he got dropped early on. This guy is like mini Manuel Torres. This is like bantamweight Manuel Torres, you know? This is like, yeah, I think that's probably the best way to put it. Like, they even kind of look similar. And they fight similar. He can knock people out. He can submit people. Good everywhere. Has holes in the striking. Throws heat into absolutely everything. Leaves the chin out. You could, if this guy and Manuel Torres were fighting on the same card, you could probably do their breakdown together. That's how similar they look. The way he like just throws his shots with everything and kind of leaves his chin up there to be hit. You could, it's very, very similar. Now he's coming up against Angel Pacheco, who I was tempted to pick here. I was tempted to pick him, but I am going to go with Santiago Luna. I'm going to say he gets it done by finish. More likely a sub. I want to say that he's going to have to mix in some grappling here. Coming up against Angel Pacheco, who had a decent showing against Danny Silva in the Contender Series. Now, he did get cracked badly a couple times in that fight. But what impressed me was he was still, despite being cracked early, and despite being cracked multiple times throughout the fight, it impressed me how tough he was to be able to stay in the fight and not only just get beaten up and stay and survive, but he was having his moments. He was still teeing off in moments here and there. And he had some pretty good technical striking. And I feel like that could cause some troubles here for Santiago Luna, you know? I feel like if Luna's going to be real confident on the feet, he got dropped early on by Quang Le before finding the knockout eventually in that first round. I feel like if he gets too confident on the feet here, he could find some troubles here and maybe get starched. Maybe. Especially seeing him get dropped like that against Quang Le early on. But I'm going to say he pulls off a win here. Angel Pacheco did get a UFC debut after that fight, given how decent of a performance despite the loss that he put on. And then they gave him Karen Loughran and he couldn't win that fight. So I can't pick him. I can't pick him to win. Mostly based off of a loss to Karen Loughran, who I think is not great. I'm going to say Santiago Luna gets this done. I'm going to say he gets the submission. I'm going to say he works in the takedowns, works in the grappling. I'm going to say he finds an early submission in the first round. I could possibly see a knockout too. But seeing the damage that Pacheco was able to take in his last fights and still survive, I'm going to say Luna wants to mix in the takedowns here, finds a submission win inside the first round. I'd say early. I'm going to say like within the first 2.5 minutes of the fight. Now, we're going to go on to the next fight, who I'm very excited for this one. Imanol Rodriguez versus Kevin Borjas. Imanol Rodriguez. Holy fuck. This dude's fight on the Contender Series, this dude's vicious. This dude is proper vicious. Gets in the pocket and throws heat. Absolute heat. Now, he's coming up against Kevin Borjas, who can be a tricky fight. He gave Josh Van some troubles back in the day. His most recent win was against Ronaldo Rodriguez, though. I don't really rate that. He's coming off of a loss to Sum Edwarji. Now, he's a kickboxer. He's not really going to look to mix in any grappling. Mostly a kickboxer. Rangy, tall for the division. But I feel like he's coming up against a really good prospect here. Imanol has some very slick boxing. Good with the counters. just great all round in the striking. Very aggressive, very vicious style. In your face. Going to be swinging massive hooks. And I feel like he's going to land here on Kevin Borjas. We've seen Borjas deal with troubles with, I guess you could say like a similar build in Alessandro Costa, who just kind of was able to get in the pocket and stifle the distance management of Kevin Borjas. And he was able to actually get a TKO win there. And yeah, I know it was ground and pound, but I feel like Imanol is going to be able to get in the pocket here, close the distance, and find his shots in the pocket and avoid anything big. Because I just think once Kevin Borjas is on the back foot, getting backed up against the cage, I feel like Imanol is going to be able to find a shot from there, you know. I feel like he's going to get a knockout here within 2 rounds. I'm going to say he gets it done in the first round. I feel like this is going to be a good showing here from a good prospect who I'm keen to see how far he goes in his career. And yeah, what more can I say on it, man? What more can I say? Imanol Rodriguez, knockout. Let's fucking Oj. Next fight of the night. I feel like this could be the fight of the night. This is going to be a sick fight. Now, Edgar Perez always comes looking to take your fucking head off. I think he's got 100% finish rate. He's got great submissions, big power, rangy, good with his straight shots. Man, just looking to come in and take you out. He gave Josh Van troubles early before Josh Van was able to rally and pick up in the second and the third round, like Josh Van does very well. But he was able to give him early troubles, had him cracked in moments there. And he's coming off a good win over, it's not Carlos Vera, someone Vera. CJ Vergara, where he rocked him badly, had him on the ropes, dropped him down. And after he dropped him, jumped on the back, took the rear naked choke, subbed him out. Now, I'm going to say he gets this fight done by finish, knockout, or submission. I wanted to single one of those out, but honestly, I sat here for ages trying to think which way is it going to go. I just feel like he's going to get the finish either way. It could be a knockout, it could be a submission. Felipe Bunes has been knocked out and submitted. They've both got 2 submission losses on the record, which I think needs to be said because Felipe Bunes, he's got good Muay Thai, good kicks, decent striking all round. He's quick, and he has a good submission ability. And that's why I thought I should mention that both of these guys have been submitted twice. So if it does go to the ground, I feel like there is a risk here that Perez could maybe put himself into a bad position, get submitted. But I'm going to say he's way better on the feet. More powerful, more physical. He's got a better frame. I feel like he's just going to be able to use that. He throws very damaging shots, and I feel like he's going to be able to wear on Felipe Bunes. He was able to survive against Josh Van, where Bunes really just eventually gave up against Josh Van, or not gave up, but he got the shit beaten out of him, basically. And yeah, I'm going to say Edgar Perez gets the finish within 2 rounds. I'm going to say he gets it done in the first round again. I reckon we've got a lot of good finishes coming up here on this main card. Hopefully, because last week it was a little bit ordinary right up until the main card. Hopefully we can get a sick night of fights here. Sick finishes in the making, potentially. Fingers crossed. Edgar Perez by TKO or submission within 2 rounds. That's going to be my pick for this fight. Ooh. Now this is tough. I'm picking Daniel Zellhuber. Here. This is tough because Daniel Zellhuber has been overrated throughout his career, in my opinion. Now, he's got good boxing. Very tall, rangy fighter. Good body kicks. He's good with body kicks and kicks in general from distance. But, man, he just hasn't lived up to what, the hype that came behind him. In his last fight against Michael Johnson, which he lost by decision, he had great troubles with the speed, which I do worry a little bit about here because Bobby Green, he's very fast with the hands. I think it was a moment after the first round in his corner, and he said to his coach, "Oh, he's so fast, I can't touch him." And that, like, to me, that looked like a instant loss of confidence from him. And you could see after that, going into the second and third round of that fight, that he just couldn't get going. He couldn't get going, and I feel like there was a lack of confidence there. So hopefully, maybe he needs to get a mental coach or whatever. Hopefully he's working on that. But I feel like he's got a pretty good matchup here. Coming up against the one and only Bobby Green. Bobby Green. Bobby. That's what I know him at. That's what I'm calling it. That's what I'm calling him. Simple as that, alright? He's getting knocked out. He's getting knocked out. I got hate. I got mad hate last time I picked against this dude. Bobby Green's getting knocked out. I don't trust his chin at all. Now, like I said, I don't think Zellhuber is that fantastic. But he is good from range. We saw Bobby Green have troubles with Jalen Turner, who's a very tall lightweight. Zellhuber's not quite that tall, but troubles with the range. And he's been knocked out like 5 times. He's been finished a bunch. He's been finished, I think, 9 times in total. Maybe more. He's been finished a bunch, and he's been knocked out a bunch. Copped that really bad knockout loss to Mauricio Hoofy last year. I just think this is a really good matchup for Daniel Zellhuber. I feel like the UFC is doing him a favor by handing him this matchup. I feel like this is one of those showcase matchups where they're trying to get one of their fighters back, or trying to get one of their fighters into the spotlight with a highlight reel type knockout. I don't see this fight going outside of 2 rounds. I feel like Daniel Zellhuber is going to find that shot. Bobby Green could mix in some grappling here, but I don't see it. I don't see it. Daniel Zellhuber has a big frame advantage. I do worry about the speed, though. I do worry about the speed. King Green... Fuck, I said it. Bobby Green has fast hands. Bobby Green does have fast hands. You need to give it to him. But he walks forward, hands down, in your face, talking shit. He's getting slept. Round number 1 by Daniel Zellhuber, who's not even that good. Okay? Daniel Zellhuber wins this fight by knockout. And that will bring us to the co-main event. David Martinez versus Marlon Chito Vera. We could get a good fight here, you know. We could get a pretty fun fight here. Now, we don't know what version of Chito Vera is going to show up. He bought a pretty good fight to Damian Zahabi in his last outing. But we all know who Chito Vera is. Big power. Lacks output. Looks for the power shot. Looks for those big front kicks. He can submit too. He's got a submission threat. But the output, man. The output seems to be what's letting him down each and every time. Even when he had Damian Zahabi on the ropes, he was walking him down, throwing nothing. Like, put something out there. I get when you're tracking someone down, you don't want to get overzealous and then get countered and put out. But man, the lack of output, it's a big trouble. I like Marlon Vera as a fighter. He's exciting to watch. But the lack of output. I think that's the key when it comes to breaking down this fight. Coming up against a very decent prospect in David Martinez, who's coming off of a decision win, unanimous decision against Rob Font, who's a very good test for everyone in this division. Kind of gives you like a marking of where someone's at, whether they can beat a Rob Font or not. And this guy did it by unanimous decision. And I picked him to win that fight. There was not a lot of people going with him to win this fight. I think when I did that, I was a little bit more of a hopeful, and it came through. But he showed that he was good. He's a very decent prospect. He has good output, throws big power, very good boxing, and good takedown defense too. Man, I just feel like the output here is the key when it comes down to breaking this fight down. And I think David Martinez is going to have a lot more of it. I feel like he's going to be putting out big numbers in the strikes. He's going to be landing big bombs. Maybe do we see Vera's chin finally get cracked here? I'm going to say David Martinez wins a decision. But I can't seem to get the thought out of my head here. Maybe we'll see Vera's chin finally get cracked. He's taken a lot of damage over the years. Never been fucking knocked out. He's got an absolute iron, absolute granite type chin. Does that come to an end in this fight? You never know. David Martinez, big power puncher, big output, good with the counters, good with the striking defense. Just impressive all round. That performance against Rob Font was really impressive. I enjoyed watching that one back to break this fight down. And yeah, I'm going to say he gets it done by decision here. Potential of a knockout. Potential of it, I'd say it would be a TKO. I don't think it would be a knockout cold. I don't think anyone's putting Vera out cold. Unless we find a point where that chin is absolutely cracked. But we haven't seen it yet, so I don't want to be banking on that. I'm going to say that David Martinez coasts his way to a 30-27 decision, winning every single round. Maybe a bit of late success from Vera as he starts to, get his way into the fight. That's one problem that he has as well. Doesn't do a lot early, kind of works his way into the fight, and even then, still lacks to throw. So, going with David Martinez here, I feel like he's going to get the win by decision. And that brings us to the main event of the night. We have Brandon Moreno, UFC vet, former champion. Someone I'm never that hyped about seeing fight, I mean, he has exciting fights, but I've never been like, oh, come on, guys, Brandon Moreno fight week, let's go. Nothing it's not like I don't like him or anything like that. Like, I've got fighters that I don't like, but it's not like that. I think he's cool. He looks like a cool dude, a little bit of a nerd, which is cool. I'm a fucking nerd. I don't know what it is. But I usually like a flyweight fight. They come in a fucking throw down, They throw in very technical shit, I don't know. He's coming up against someone who I do enjoy watching very much, and that's in Kavanagh, who's coming off a very bad knockout loss against Charles Johnson, which he had a very good first round against, I must say. I feel like in that fight, he just... I don't know, that was a tough matchup. Charles Johnson is a tough matchup, even though he got fucking knocked out bad by Alex Perez. Charles Johnson's a tough matchup for anyone. I'm trying to think, was Kavanagh, was there anyone in between Kavanagh and Alex Perez? Maybe Kavanagh loosened that chin of Charles Johnson. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to go with Kavanagh to win this fight. That might be crazy. I think that is crazy, to be honest. But I think he's a very good prospect. Honestly, I really like his upcoming here. I like his chances in the division, in his future. I know Brandon Moreno is a tough matchup for everyone. I know that. But he does keep it close, He kept it close with Steve Erceg, who we've come to see maybe isn't all that. Before that he had a win over, what was it? The guy who just lost. Amir Albazi. That was in 2024. He is coming off that TKO loss to Tatsuro Taira, who is very good. He got the top control flattened him out and was just raining down on him. It wasn't out cold or anything, but he did lose that fight by TKO. Close fight with Brandon Royval. Close fight with the champ, but the champ clearly won it. He keeps it close. That's what I'm trying to say here. He does keep it close. Now, I worry about the 5 rounds here for Lonnie Kavanagh, especially looking back on that Charles Johnson fight. He throws everything into his shots. Now, fuck, man. This is a tough one. This is a tough one for me. He throws everything into his shots, and he did that last time, and he had a very, very good first round against Charles Johnson, really teeing off on him. But then he started to tire, and he got caught exiting the pocket with his hands by his hips, and he got his chin spun off. And with that being said, he's a young prospect with a very high ceiling, in my opinion. I feel like from that fight, he's going to improve greatly, instantly. Just from that loss, I know a fighter can improve a lot more from a loss than they can a win. And I feel like that loss is really going to light something underneath Lonnie Kavanagh. Now, I know this is 3-4 weeks short notice, so there is that risk there too. But I like this kid, man. I like Lonnie Kavanagh, and I think he's going to win this fight. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say he gets it done by TKO. I'm going to say that we're going to see some scrambles here in this fight. Brandon Moreno, obviously a good grappler, has that submission threat too. He's got good boxing, very weird stance, very unorthodox on the feet, very strange, kind of brings his height down, very strange kind of stance. Can be hard to hit at times. He's good with his body kicks too. But the speed of Lonnie Kavanagh, I feel like there's going to be a big difference on the feet. And I feel like Brandon Moreno is going to want to mix it up. And Lonnie Kavanagh is well versed on the ground. I think he can hold his own. And when it comes to ground and pound from Lonnie Kavanagh, he's vicious with it. He is vicious with it. And I feel like in the second or the third round, we're going to see some grappling exchanges here. Maybe some top control from Brandon Moreno. Maybe some reversals here and there. But I feel like Lonnie Kavanagh is going to eventually get the better of these scrambles. And I feel like he's going to find some dominant top control. And I think he's going to be able to tee off with ground and pound on Brandon Moreno. And I feel like we're going to see a second ground and pound TKO loss for Brandon Moreno. I don't know if I'm being hopeful here with that. But I just, looking at this fight, man, going into it, I was like, go with Moreno, dude. It's safe. It is safe to go with Moreno here. If it goes 5 rounds, he probably wins. Lonnie Kavanagh probably gasses. But I'm going to say the timing is right. I'm going to say Brandon Moreno's title aspirations have maybe come to an end following the loss to Tatsuro Taira. And I'm going to say Lonnie Kavanagh takes advantage of this big moment here and gets the win against the Mexican in Mexico. Let's fucking go, Lonnie Kavanagh. Gets the win in the second or the third round by TKO to ground and pound strikes after a good back and forth battle with scrambles, striking. I feel like we're going to see a bit of scrambling in this fight, a bit of wrestling. Probably some early control from Brandon Moreno. But I feel like the more physicality, the side of the physicality is going to be with Lonnie Kavanagh. And that's just where I see the difference being. That's where I see the difference being. He's going to be way quicker on the feet. And I think he can get it done. I think he can get it done. That's why I'm going to go with him here. And that brings us to the end of the predictions. Now, thank you so much for watching if you've got to this point. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much there on about... I was struggling trying to find things to say about this main event, to be honest. And some of these fights were tough to pick. Some of these fights were tough to pick here, and I had to do a lot of tape tape study to really get a gist of like some of these fighters that I've never seen before, or some of these like debutantes and all that. But man, thank you so much. If you've got to this point of the video, drop a like and a sub if you enjoyed. Let me know who you've got with your predictions below. If you agree or disagree, let me know. I'd like to hear it. I like to hear everyone's opinions, and let me know why. If you've got a certain take on a fight that you want to share, drop it below and let me know. I'd love to hear it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Have a fucking good one, boys.